Duncan, I can hear you. Hi there.
Alright, I was having trouble plugging in this morning, but I think I've got it now.
No worries. How you doing?
Hanging in there, how are you?
Superb, thank you. All good this side. I'm so glad we're having this chat. It's been very exciting few weeks actually, and really a pleasure to make your acquaintance, and really touched that you got in touch with me after I posted some stuff about David Icke. And yeah, I really wanted to have a speak to you as well about, the general mood within the truth movement or the non-truth movement. Also, a bit about you and your personal feelings, your background. So I think I'm just going to let you dive in because I really have no idea where to start.
Oh, that can be dangerous.
Keep going, I'm here.
Well, I'm very glad we were able to connect. We checked out your site, after we had that first chat and we checked out your site, we were both like, oh yeah, holy crap. Absolutely.
Well, it's so funny because, like, as I said to you when I spoke last time, I had actually emailed you a couple of years back after you had had a few very brutally truthful things to say about Kerry Cassidy, and I was so taken by your honesty that I thought I really wanted to interview you. And I generally make a point of trying to stay away from people who've been interviewed by Project Camelot, and I know you had. So I was so touched, like, when you called me up, and halfway through the conversation, I actually realized who you were and that I love you, and that actually I'd emailed you 3 times and you hadn't responded for an interview request after that piece you did. I think it was a series of pieces, and I was like, you know what, first thing I woke up in the morning, I was like, I wonder what Duncan O Finioan had to say today onto your website. You're blogging about it ferociously at the time, and it was very entertaining, and of course it kept a lot of tongues wagging for a bit. And finally 2 years down the line, we're actually getting to connect. So funny how it all turns.
Well, at that particular time, our email, I would sign on, look at email, and watch them literally just disappear off the screen. And I know I missed hundreds of excellent emails, and I would say yours were right in there with it. We still have email problems, although I must say over the past, since we reinstituted the website or the blog, it hasn't been as bad. We have lost some information in several emails, but not nearly like it was back then.
Okay, well, good. I'm glad. So I think we start with, I'd really like to just recap a little bit on your background. You're just such a fascinating individual, and some of the stories you told have really touched me. Can we do that?
We can do it any way you want it.
Yeah, cool. So let's talk a bit about you and where you came from and your training.
Going back with through Project Talent up and through.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, to start with, Project Talent is a sub-project of the infamous MK Ultra project. Most people think MK Ultra was an group of experiments done back in the 50s, 60s, into the early 70s that involved experimental drugs such as LSD, dopamine, a few other things. That was part of it, yes, but there were much deeper, more nefarious aspects of MK Ultra. Project Talent was just one of those projects. It was underneath the umbrella of MK Ultra. Project Talent was a project designed to seek out children from specific bloodlines with natural talents, whether they be an unnatural strength. Everybody's seen an 8 or 9 year old kid that's, overly strong.
Yeah.
Physically strong. That's one aspect. High intelligence was another aspect. Psychic ability was another aspect, and on and on and on. And they were also looking at groups from specific bloodlines, specifically Celtic, Old Norse, Native Americans, specifically Cherokee. And if you look back through all the mythos, which I don't think are myths at all, the ancient Norse and the Celtics came to the eastern part of the United States hundreds of years before Columbus and intermarried and mixed with the Cherokee, the eastern band of the Cherokee Indian. That's where you get a lot of what's called red bone, Native Americans with red hair.
Okay.
And they were looking really for kids from that group at that time. And that's where they got me. I was right in the middle of all of it. On my mother's side, I was Cherokee. On my father's side, I was Celtic. And I was right in the middle. So they put me through a test. It was a really weird test. And we changed a little bit with it. You know, when I first started getting all of the coherent memories back, meaning that when I started getting everything back to where everything made sense, we thought that the test itself was me putting the pieces of a puzzle together. Well, with the increase in knowledge that we have gotten over the past few years, we no longer believe that was the entire test, because there was this lady, German accent, standing behind me. And what we believe, and we have proven, not conclusively, but enough to convince us, that the actual test was to see if I could receive psychic impressions, psychic messages. She was standing behind me, guiding me to put the puzzle together. Oh boy, Skype's starting to act up just a little bit.
Okay, I can hear you.
Okay. And then from there, well, I was given, literally given the Kool-Aid to drink, a cup of red Kool-Aid. And I took a few steps and I was out. I was unconscious. And then my next awake memory at that time was when I was 9 years old. And then after that, over the years, memories have started to surface. We've been able to put things together. And I was taken to a training facility in upstate New York, up around John Storm's area, as a matter of fact. And was physically and psychologically tortured until my psyche split off into an alternate personality to survive.
Wow.
And this was in 1966. I was 6 years old. And the group that was taken in, I mean, they run this just like high schools and colleges. You know, you have classes, different classes. There were supposedly 1,000 of us. Over half did not survive the initial process of splitting the personality. And the torture involved in splitting the personality is not something that was done over one day. It is not something that was done over 1 week or 1 month or even 1 year. This went on and on because what they wanted to do was to build the subject's pain tolerance as to be unbelievable. Because when they split the psyche, they need a full-blown alternate personality, not something that is half there, you know, 3/4 there. They need the full-blown, dead-on alternate that can be trained, and that takes time. And they start small. I remember one of the first things they did to me was what they call now waterboarding.
Yeah.
Except I was kept very cold. And then sleep deprivation. The spinning wheels. Remember the old 60s thing where the wheel would spin with the circle on it? I was forced to stare at things like that. And then the needles underneath the fingernails began. the electric shocks, and so on and so forth, until I was to the point to where I was begging to die.
Oh.
And when I started begging them to let me die, I fully remember this one scientist, doctor in a lab coat, smiling and saying that, now it's time. That they had me. They knew I was ready to split. And then they cranked the voltage up, and the next thing I know, I was unconscious. And that's when I split.
Okay.
And then the training began. That's the bad part. That was just the physical side of the training for me, and in the groups that I was in. The instructors walked around with cattle prods, so if that's how you were corrected. It's not like a normal martial arts class or a handgunning class or anything. No, if you made a mistake, you were cattle prodded in the back or the chest, put down, and nearly rendered unconscious. Then you started over. Failure was not an option. And if a subject did fail, they were rendered expendable, which means they were terminated in one way or another, either in war games or publicly to the rest of the group as an example.
Okay.
Project Talent itself, the way I like to try and explain it is, it's like elementary school. Okay? A group of kids goes to elementary school, everybody learns pretty much the same thing, right? As you graduate on up to secondary school, what we call high school, and so on and so forth, then you start branching off and learning other things. Well, with talent, when you begin to move on up through, they started, it was a way to see what a person's abilities were, what they would be good at, what they would not be good at. And then they started branching people off. And until finally you were a teenager. By the time you were a teenager, you were a full-blown military asset. And I despise the term super soldier. I prefer super spud. But I like to call ourselves, we were unrecognized, augmented military assets. Augmented because of the implants that were put in us, the genetic alterations that were done, so on and so forth, did make us above and beyond normal, yes, but just the term super soldier brings up the movies and TV and comic books and so on and so forth. To me, that glorifies the violence that took place in order to create people like us from childhood. And I hope that got across good enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, you've been through so much, and this has obviously brought you down this road. I think I want to hear a little bit more about sort of where you went from there.
Well, the first, and we call them jobs, not assignments. The first job I had memory of was being in Cambodia. I did not know Cambodia at that time because I was a young teenager. And I've talked about this before, is where a group of us kids were choppered in, and we got off a helicopter, joined hands, and formed a semicircle, almost like a horseshoe. And the witnesses on the ground, David Corso being one, several other people who have contacted us over the years who have also verified that. And real quick, I'll put this in. This will just explain to the listeners how serious this is. A friend of mine is a full-bird colonel in the United States Army. He's now in the Army Reserves. He's also a Baptist minister, has his own church. This is one of the most honest, straightforward men I've ever known in my life. He had an uncle who was in the Air Force that was on the ground during this event. And they had talked about this before I ever came on the scene. So when my colonel friend and I were talking one day, and he's like, "Oh my goodness, you." And I said, "Well, I would like to talk to your uncle." He worked on his uncle for a year to get him to meet with me. We met at the gym. We had a workout. He said, "My uncle will meet with you tomorrow. Meet me here, and we'll go out for coffee and have a chat." Well, the next morning, I met with the colonel. The colonel informed me his uncle had put a gun in his mouth and blown his brains out that night. This is how serious some of this stuff is. I don't have words to explain to really impact the seriousness of this. People will die because of have died and will continue to over some of this information. But going on, the first memory I have of the first job was us being in Cambodia. We formed a semicircle, a horseshoe, and we all held hands, and we term it a psychic blast, but because that's an easy way to explain it, but it was more to the point, it was a controlled energy blast. You would have to understand that each one of us 12 was like a battery. And some of us have so much electricity in our bodies anyway, we fry electronics. Have you ever heard of people they call sparkers?
Yeah.
Well, imagine a sparker magnified about 100 times. That's what you got. And so all that energy came in together and then was directed outward. I do not have the knowledge of how it was directed outward to only affect the enemy. I don't know. One thing we do know is there was a 13th person involved that was the trigger and the sight. Us 12 kids were just the batteries to perform the act. Someone else aimed the shot and pulled the trigger. And from there, it was just all these other memories of some assassinations, but honestly, not as many assassinations as most people would think. A lot of grunt work, what we call courier work, transporting packages, envelopes, snatch and grabs, grabbing somebody off the street or out of a hotel, be taken in for questioning, things like that. We did a lot of bodyguard work at a lot of these trillion-dollar functions like the Illuminati parties and things like that. We were there as bodyguards. Trying to think of where to go to keep in context with.
No worries. I think for now, I really want to sort of move on from there as to what you're kind of doing now and, the kind of message and the journey that you're on at the moment.
Well, what we're doing now is, as I said at the beginning, they were looking for kids with certain abilities. Well, they took us and our abilities or our talents and bastardize them to use for their purposes, their evil intent. Well, what we decided to do a long time ago was take our abilities, our talent, because they're ours. Take what we've learned, what was added to them, and use them for good. To use them and try and help as many people as we can. And that's why one of the reasons we do our gatherings, most people call them seminars, but we prefer to call them gatherings because it's a gathering of like-minded people. And we teach people over a 2.5-day period to do some of the same stuff that we can do, albeit we don't use cattle prods.
Thank goodness.
No, it's a rough weekend. I'll admit that. It's a rough weekend. You do a lot of work, a lot of breathing exercises, there's a lot of physicality to it, a lot of movement, a lot of energy work. There's also ritual because it's a combination of Native American, I hate the word shamanism, but that's kind of what's most known. So it's a lot of Native American shamanism and a lot of Celtic work. We do the sage ritual before and after the weekend. We do a lot of energy work, one-on-one plus in groups. We do a lot of physical, tangible things that people can look at and they go, oh, wow, this is really working. This isn't me sitting in an auditorium listening to someone talk to me about love and light. This is a group where I'm actually seeing and I'm feeling actual tangible proof of everything that's going on. Like as an example, we do a healing circle. Everyone sits down. We take a metal bowl. We have water in it. We have a crystal in it. It's a perfectly clear quartz crystal. Everyone passes that bowl around 3 times. They dip 2 fingers of the right hand in the bowl. Long story short, they're pushing all the negativity that they have, all of the bad memories, the abuses and everything that is built up in them, push it into the water. By the time the 3rd pass is finished, when you look at the crystal will have either turned black or you can see it shattering from the inside out. That's real, physical, tangible proof that this stuff works, that this stuff is real. Then we bury the crystal.
Okay. Well, I'd love to do one of those courses. Do you have to be particularly fit?
No, not at all. We have some people who have been to 4 of these, and they come back because they say, I felt so good for a month or so. I want to come back for another one. And that's just all that energy that's being moved around. You start absorbing it, and it's a great feeling.
Okay. Well, give it a try sometime. I must specifically want to bring you into a current context, Duncan. Obviously, David Icke's latest fallout over the People's Voice is how sort of we've connected. I posted expose I did of him a couple of years back, and I really wanted to sort of get your honest views and opinions, which I just adore so very much, on various people in the so-called truth movement, and your thoughts honestly about what it's all about and what to look out for, etc.
You may try to have people get you to pull this interview.
It won't happen. They can't do that to me.
I don't think there is an organized truth movement. I think what we see on the surface as an organized truth movement of the big sites, okay, as Ike, as Camelot, we call the big sites, the top of the pyramid. They're organized, all right. They're also opposition controlled. And that's my total honest opinion based on experience, information, and research. They're controlled opposition. And most of these people at the top down to the middle of the pyramid are only in it for the money. There is big money in the so-called truth movement. If you're willing to sell out, be as unscrupulous as any politician out there, you can get rich. But there's some people out there that will not sell out, that money is so far on the ladder for them that honesty and integrity is what means everything. They're the ones that keep getting hammered. They're the ones that keep having little hit pieces put out about them from the bigger ones. So don't listen to these people. Don't believe those people. You know, anybody can do the research. Check out the people who are getting hammered the most. That's usually the ones that have a good part of truth in what they say.
Yeah. Myself, I've been hammered a few times, like big time. So.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have. And you're still here.
Yeah, I'm still here. And for me, it's never, as you know, Duncan, it's never been about the money. You won't find a single please donate on any single video I've ever produced in 4 years.
I know.
You know?
That's the same way. But we don't have a donate button. You know, we're certainly not going to turn them down, but we're not going to ask for them either.
Yeah.
We've had like 3 donations in 5 years.
Yeah. You know, this is the thing, is that unless you're exploiting something, you're not going to make enough to actually live off of it. And it's got to be more than a need to survive. It's got to be a driving passion. You have to find another way to keep yourself going. And this has to be your passion if it's going to come from a very true, pure place. Because it's very easy to get sucked up and diverted. There's all sorts of wonderfully positioned people to divert you into all sorts of crazy directions. The New Age, you know, all sorts of the Ophiolitrea cult. It doesn't matter. There's so many ways you can get sucked in and then completely sucked away from the core truth, what is actually going on.
Well, yeah, and, you know, also, I hate to say this, but so many people are looking for the easy way out. The way that, how can I just go listen to somebody talk, send somebody a little money, and be taken care of? You know, what we have out there right now, well, let me say, what happened with the, you know, everybody was going to ascend 2012. You know, that's all we were hearing about. Don't worry, everybody's going to ascend. You know, if your vibrational level's high enough, you'll ascend, How's that working out for you? I wrote in a blog post when that first stuff first started, you guys are going to be right here in the crap with the rest of us, whether you like it or not. You ain't going to ascend. You ain't going to be raptured. You ain't going to have alien space brothers and sisters come down and take you out in the flying saucer. All that crap is a way to make money. This is what was killing me. We were talking about the people at the top of the pyramid down to the center of the pyramid. All these people were putting out there, and this cracks me up. 2012, your vibrational level is high enough. You're going to ascend. We're all going to ascend. This is 2012. And then you look down lower on about the 3rd or 4th paragraph underneath that, my new book will be released June of 2013. Join us in Malta in May of 2014. Well, wait a minute. If you're not going to be here, why are you making plans to be in Malta a year and a half later?
Yep.
Use some common sense.
Yeah.
I mean, we are straight up when we say this. Hell's coming to Frogtown, and you better be ready. It's about to get really, really bad. And the Ascension movement. Okay, you asked me. I told you to look out.
No. I want it all. Give it to me, Duncan. I can handle it.
There's two other things. I'll get this off my chest, and then we'll move on. There's two other things. This whole Nasara thing. Okay, and then this whole Saint Germain, and then these people tied it all in together.
Oh,
Okay.
please, lots. I want lots on this. I'm having such issues with these people at the moment.
Let's just stop and say, for 1 second, something like Nasara takes place. Okay, every man and woman on the face of the planet is given $1 million. Okay, what does that change? Nothing. It changes nothing. You take a thug who will rape, rob, steal, murder every day as a way of life, because that's just the way the person is. Is giving them $1 million going to change them? No, it's going to make them a thug with $1 million. That's all. They'll be able to go out and buy a bigger gun. That's all. If people are going to change, it's got to come from inside. It's got to come from the heart. You got to do that 180 and turn around and be a decent human being. You got to try and be a good person. Throwing money at it and at people isn't going to change anything. It won't change anything. And if let's say we do what they talk about, wiping out all the debt and starting over. Okay, let's wipe out all the debt. How long is it going to be until everyone is right back in debt again? If you don't change from the inside, changing the physical, changing the financial isn't going to help anything. Again, it's a cop-out. It's just an easy way out. And there are no easy way outs. And then this whole saint, they try to tie this Saint Germain and the purple, violet, I'm colorblind, purple, violet, turquoise, hot pink, whatever flame they keep talking about. Saint Germain, okay, this gets into some really dicey. The spirit of Saint Germain is demonic. Straight up. You're giving yourself over and following the words of Saint Germain. You're following a demonic, evil entity. And that's a whole different ballgame.
Okay, and let's elaborate on this. What brings you to this conclusion? Because I've come to the same conclusion.
Research and gut instincts.
Absolutely.
Demonics are something I do happen to know a little bit about. Mm-hmm. I've been dealt with them. I've been face-to-face with them. I fought with them. I've exorcised them. I took part in my first exorcism in the Catholic Church when I was very young.
Okay.
I was one of the people involved in it. And then I moved on from there. I learned. I trained. This is something that I do absolutely know what I'm talking about. I don't claim to be an expert at it. I don't claim to be an expert in anything. Because the minute you claim to be an expert, you need to start back and be a student again.
Yep.
But I do have a little bit of knowledge about it. The entity Saint Germain is demonic. And if you're following Saint Germain, you're following a demonic entity.
Okay, so you obviously know Madame Blavatsky.
I know the name, yes.
Yeah, okay. She wrote a couple of brilliant books, which I've read, A Secret Doctrine, which are filled with lots and lots of wisdom, and the Ascended Masters first came to my attention there. But this whole Ascended Masters thing, apart from Order Blavatsky's wisdom, and she was pretty bang on about everything, even Michael Zarian makes an exact same comment. There's a lot of truth for a woman at her time, quite groundbreaking truths that came through. But that's all kind of been hijacked by people like Alice Bailey and Annie Besant, and somehow the New Age movement, like much, I suppose, real true spiritual teachings have been hijacked over the years. Same things happened here. And we've got something else which is quite frightening, which has emerged, which is a very strong New Age movement with people now, Archangel Michael, Saint Germain, walking around with purple crosses, which are actually Maltese crosses. It's the 8-pointed star of the Maltese cross,
Correct.
but they're purple crosses of Saint Germain. And these people are causing havoc in my life, I can tell you now. I just can't believe you've brought this up, Duncan. I've got chills as you did that, because I'm having the most unbelievable hassles with this particular group and personal attacks, because I've myself exposed their nefarious activities and the way they operate, which is nothing other than a cult.
Yeah, correct. Correct. That's what they are. A lot of the old writings that you were just mentioning, they're going back from like the 1870s, 1880s, up into the 1930s. Everything kind of got hijacked by Hitler and Crowley. I'll say this real quick. Aleister Crowley, it was much like Saint Germain. There was Aleister Crowley, the man. Then there's Aleister Crowley, the demonic entity. Crowley allowed himself to be possessed by a very dark demonic entity. And this is what happens with a lot of these people. And I would go so far as to say at least half of the people from these groups that are attacking you have at least a demonic attachment. That's the equivalent. What a lot of people say, I've got a devil riding around on my shoulder, whispering in my ear. That's a demonic attachment. It's there. It's there all the time. It's like riding on your back. And it sucks your energy dry, and it's constantly guiding you to do and say things. Man, this stuff upsets me so bad. I lost where I was going.
Me too. I'm fascinated. So I want as much information on this as possible. People need to know, because there's so many people getting sucked up by this stuff at the moment, and it's dangerous because they don't actually know what it is they're supposedly giving their energy over to.
No, they don't. One of the things that Rand and I have talked about, and we do this in the seminars, gatherings, and whatnot. We try to explain to people how easy it can be to give yourself over. It can be as simple as trying to get something right. You're doing it every day, such as writing something or building something or putting a puzzle together. Okay? If you constantly keep throwing your hands up saying, man, I wish I could do this, I wish I could do this, sooner or later you're going to get that little voice that says, I can help you. And if you accept it, they've got a hook in. And then the entity itself will make your life hell. Cause and effect. It causes it so it can affect it. So it can help you get out of the problem. It can help you work the puzzle. It can help you get the new job, so on and so forth. Each time you accept its help, it grows stronger, you grow weaker until it's got you. And that's where we try to explain the 3 S's, salt, silver, sage, pure heart, pure mind. If you can keep pure heart, pure mind, pure thoughts, and that is something that is the most difficult thing in the world to do, is pure thoughts in today's society.
Oh, tell me about it. Yes, I am awfully flawed. And you know something, it's these small imperfections, and I know they're huge imperfections, in my way of being that these New Age people have sieged upon, and she's not of the light. When I do have a moment of outburst at an injustice, then all of a sudden it's they've got to point not at the injustice but at the outburst, and how evil and demonic I must be as a result. Not realizing their judgment is actually just, and what they're saying is actually a perfect mirror and explaining exactly what is going on with them. They're telling me what's wrong with them by what they are saying to me.
There is something called righteous anger. That is what people like us feel and express. If you walk down the street and you see a group of thugs beating the crap out of a homeless person, if you do not get angry at that, you're dead inside. That is righteous anger. If you see a group of people, as we have said, a cult, ruining people's lives, and you do not get angry at that, you're dead inside. That is righteous anger. And we are morally and universally and cosmically obligated to speak out about it and to do something about it. I have literally had people write me telling me that I need to put a gun in my mouth and blow my brains out. Then they sign it in love and light.
Yeah.
No joke. They sign it at the bottom, their name, in love and light. Are you kidding me?
It's hysterical.
I write them back and tell them, take a balloon ride somewhere so I can pop the balloon. Let me see you call to your ascended master falling from 3,000 feet and see how that works out for you.
Oh my goodness. So let's talk about the ascended masters then. What are they? What is going on there? Do these guys actually exist, and are they, working in, I would say, as benevolent beings towards humanity? Besides,
I have always felt that the majority of these so-called ascended masters are either A, demonic entities masquerading, which they do so well, or other interdimensional entities which can do the same thing. This whole ascended master thing, I try to stay away from it as much as possible. What I want to know is, what has any of these ascended masters' words, writings, teachings, channelings, and so on and so forth helped except the person getting the donations for it? How many people have they actually helped except for the person that does the channeling and the writing that's receiving the money for it? I would like somebody to write me and say, it saved my life or whatnot. Nobody ever says that. I don't believe in this whole ascended master BS. It's too easy. It has a demonic stink to it to me. A lot of it also has an interdimensional stink to it. That's hard to explain, but that's the easiest way I can explain it.
Absolutely. And if they're organized and intelligent, they would masquerade as something that we would acquiesce and give our energy to.
Well, and again, they keep coming back to they offer the easy answer, the easy way out.
Yeah.
There's never this, you got to put your boots on and you're going to have to bust your butt every day to make something work.
That's
no,
funny.
It's just listen to my words, read my words, lift your voice. Bullshit!
Can't believe you said that, Duncan. That's so funny, because what I found about these people is they won't actually look and do the work, look at what they've done wrong, apologize, do the work internally and go, okay, I fucked up, I have to do something here, I've got to sort this out. They'd rather send you a whole bunch of New Age literature by Guy Ballard,
Yeah.
Or something like that. And it's a weakness within them, and they hide behind all this nonsense. And that's possibly why they're so sucked in by it.
Okay, let's look at it this way. you've got a group of 30 that is a get-together 3 nights a week meditation group, meditating to feed the homeless, okay, for the homeless. And they read all this Ascended Master stuff. They have a channeler stuck in the middle saying, Michael the Archangel gives his blessings, blah, 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 okay. Well, what if you got off your butts those 3 nights a week and went down to a soup kitchen and actually got your hands dirty? You're actually doing something. It's tangible. It's physical. You're actually helping something. You want to raise your vibration, help someone who really needs it, and watch them smile at you. That will raise your vibration. Sitting around in somebody's living room sipping wine going, all that's going to do is give you freaking diarrhea, okay? I warned you, this stuff pisses me off.
Yeah, me too. I'm smack in the middle of it, and I'm a prolific activist. I've yesterday just taken a whole bunch of information to file documents for genocide in South Africa, and I've taken it to the International Criminal Courts of Justice in The Hague, and I know they're controlled by the cabal. I'm not going to get anything from it. However, it's the first case of this kind that's ever actually been acknowledged and accepted by them. So symbolically, it's huge, but also it's raising awareness about the hidden genocide going on there. So for me, that is, rather than sitting on someone's living room floor chanting away, trying to do something that means something, I find that this also, they're very evangelical in their way, they want you to be very purist and it's all very good and well to look after yourself and not eat a lot of meat and all that stuff, but there's a lot of pressure and a lot of evangelicism with this New Age stuff, which unfortunately, it doesn't allow you to be who you are. And that's one of the principles I learned as a Reiki master at a young age was at all times be who you are, otherwise your energy does not flow freely.
Very good. Excellent. Dead on. If most people, these angel people, ever saw a real angel, they'd probably faint. The whole angelic concept, now there is an angelic realm, but it's not actually called the angelic. That's a lot of words that are used today are used out of convenience. Okay, what we get of the angelics, of the angels, comes from the Judeo-Christian Bible, right? You guys out there know what an angel really is?
Go on, tell us.
God's assassins. the God of the Bible's soldiers. They do his bidding. They're his assassins. Most angels don't give a rat's butt about the human race. They don't even like the human race. So you start calling on angels, you better be careful. Because there's angels and there's fallen angels. If you just start calling on an angel, you may get a fallen angel.
Yeah.
This stuff, this whole New Age movement has been invented, and let's make the New Age movement an umbrella, much like MK Ultra. So let's say the New Age movement, under that, you have the whole Germain, Nasara, Ascended Masters, all that underneath the New Age movement. That umbrella, to me, was put in motion for 2 reasons. A, to make money. B, to get control of as many souls as possible. Because that's what this whole thing, that's what this whole war is about, is controlling the soul, controlling the person. And whoever has control of the most souls wins. Total. Everything's totally out of balance.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen a few of my friends getting sucked in by this, and it seems a case of they want to control souls, and when they weren't able to control mine, I became the enemy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tell a little story. I can't give a lot of detail, but I will tell the story. Several years ago, well, more like about 15 years ago, I lived in the little state of Delaware on the East Coast. And was in my house about 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm laying there in that half awake, half asleep state, and I feel the presence of someone in the bedroom. I'm alone. And I look out, and there's this guy standing at the foot of the bed. Now, they'd gotten in. And he looks at me and he goes, "Hi." I'm like, "Okay, what's this?" And he says, "We will offer you all the power that you could ever want if you will come fight for our side." See, they know where to get you. Money's never interested me. He offered me power. Not money, but power. They thought they were hitting me at my weakest point. Well, an argument ensued, and he got thrown out the front door. But that's what they do. They offer these people their heart's desire, whether it's money, power, inroads, outroads. They offer them what they want.
What they need.
What they think they need.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, add this to that real quick. People keep wanting to know, well, why the human soul? Why the human soul? This is the way it was explained to me years ago before I took this job. The human soul has the equivalent power of a small nuclear reactor.
Yes.
You put enough of them together, you've got the power of the universe. The human soul is pure energy. It's pure power. And both sides want to control it. Both sides want as many in their arsenal as possible. And that's the whole good versus evil, heaven versus hell, so on and so forth, whatever you want to call it. That's what that whole fight's about. And the New Age movement, ascended masters, all this stuff are tricks of one side, probably both sides. Because remember, both sides will employ the same tactics to get you on their side. But that's what the whole thing is. Trick. Making a lot of people rich and making a lot of people sick.
Okay, so like, where does that leave us now? I mean, are we we are obviously in a spiritual war, right? And we've got to be vigilant as to how we proceed. What do you suggest?
Learn who your enemy is the first thing. If you're going to go out, look at it as I was a kickboxer. Let's say a kickboxing match. If I'm taking a fight with a guy and I'm going to go fight him, I want to learn as much about him as I can. I want to know, is he left-handed, right-handed? Okay. Does he read left, read right? What does he have for breakfast? I want to know these things. Learn who your enemy is. Learn to see through this charade that these people put on. All of us are intuitive. All of us have this gut instinct, this sixth sense. But for generations, we've been told it isn't real. But yet, cops have what they call cop instincts, but we don't have. Okay, that's another line. Sorry. Start learning who your enemy is. Start learning how to protect yourself and take your soul back. Take your lives back. Whether it's a good life, bad life, whether you're poor, sick, it doesn't matter. It's you. It's your life. It's your soul. Take it back and hang on to it. It's that simple on one hand and that difficult on the other. Because once you start fighting back, once you start recognizing the enemy, once you start poking the bad guys in the eye, they will come after you, whether it's physically, mostly spiritually, and for people like us, it's on the internet, it's on radio shows, it's on websites, so on and so forth. They will come after you. It's like you put this big neon sign on your head. You know, I'm going to fight you, so come and get me. It's almost like we do that.
Yes.
But that's all by design.
Okay, so, you know, I'm okay with that, because I'm okay for these people to be coming after me. I'm strong spiritually. I'm a warrior. I have no issue with that. Okay, I think it's possibly why I'm here doing what I do, and ending up in the positions that I'm ending up in, which I think from moment to moment I'm growing stronger by not acquiescing to the nonsense and the bullshit that's distracting everybody.
Well, each time you fight a battle and win, you get stronger. That's just the nature of the way things are. That's, you know, an old term, that's the law of the West, okay?
For sure. For sure. Wow.
Each time you fight and win, you get stronger. And each time you fight a battle, you learn. Knowledge is power. The more knowledge you have about your enemy, the better you can fight them. So you're absolutely right on that.
Okay. Duncan, it's coming up to an hour. I wanted to ask you any one last message for humanity.
Open your eyes and start looking around you and look at what's really going on. And start learning and start taking care of each other. Stop giving your lives over to ascended masters and gurus and any not such nonsense as that. And, you know, instead of going, as we were talking earlier, going in someone's living room and sitting and meditating, go out and help someone. Even if it's just going to your elderly neighbor down the street and asking them if they need you to go to the store for them. I mean, this builds, okay? Every time you do something good from the heart that is pure for someone, you increase your spiritual energy. You increase your power. Now, it ticks off the bad side, but so what? I like thumbing them in the eye. Just start doing some good. Quit worrying about retirement plans and 401ks and IRAs and, you know, I've got to have the newest SUV on the market. That's all part of their game. Don't play their game. Play your game and be just, every day you get up, just sit there and say, today I'm going to be the best person I can be, and do it every day. Forget about what you did yesterday. Start over today.
You know, it's amazing that you've come to me at this time. It's almost like someone heard my call that I needed a little bit of healing, and you've just, it's, I'm actually quite blown away by this interview and truly honoured that you got in touch with me to give it to me. And I hope that I can call you up and just have a chat with you anytime, because I think you and I are going to be good friends.
Anytime you want.
Duncan.
If I'm on a job, I'll let you know.
No worries. Duncan, it's been an absolute honour and a privilege, and I have not looked forward to an interview quite this much in some time. So I look forward to perhaps catching a part 2 with you and Miranda next time.
Yes, she was on a job today.
No problem.
Kind of called out real quick, so I'm hoping she's okay today.
Brilliant. Well, do send her my love and tell her I look forward to speaking to her in person.
I will do that. It's been my pleasure and my honor.
We'll do it again.
Absolutely, we'll do it again.
Thanks a lot, Duncan. We'll speak soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.